What up guys, welcome to another video. Today we're talking about your STi and modding it under the hood in the correct order so we do not sacrifice reliability or have an accident where this thing goes kaboom. Disclaimer, mod your Subaru at your own risk, but I've done a ton of homework and I talked to Joe, who's a Subaru specialist at Good Speed Performance, to make sure I had all my facts straight. And after owning this car for over a year, I am very confident that this is the recipe for reliability with your STi and your EJ25 engine, 2.5 liter turbocharged Subaru engine. So let's get started. The very first mod you can do on your STi without a tune is a catback exhaust. I recommend that. Get it from the dealer, take it straight, get your NVIDIA N1 or Tome or Q300 or whatever you want dual exhaust. Next, Arizona, California, Nevada people, this doesn't count for you, you don't have this tune. You go and buy an Accessport, a Cobb Accessport, put that in the car, and then if you're anywhere except those 3 states, you can do a stage 1 plus tune, which is an intake, and you should be good to go. We don't have very good fuel in Arizona, California, Nevada, so we can't do that. So you go straight to the stage 2 for Arizona, California, Nevada, and on your Cobb Accessport, it's gonna say stage 2, and then stage 2 ACN, Arizona, California, Nevada. So the stage 2 ACN is with a downpipe or an intake. And I ran my car with the catless downpipe on that stage 2 tune for about 10,000 miles, and I really didn't have any issues. I didn't drive it very hard, so I was very careful. I didn't get ringland failure. The motor's pretty healthy. After I got it pro-tuned, everything was good to go. So the next step, you got your downpipe or your intake. If you're in any other state, you got your intake. So now this is like that awkward point. Basically, your car is going to be starving for fuel if you modify it any farther. So now you're at the point where you got to drop a lot of money like I did and wait, you wait some time until you have everything. So now you're going to do an intake, you're going to do 1050X injectors, you're going to do your downpipe and your blow-off valve, and then you're going to get it pro-tuned. I forgot to mention a high-flow fuel pump in the midst of all that. At the same time, it'd be really healthy to get an air oil separator, which I recommend the IAG air oil separator. That's like the best one to my knowledge, and basically that helps with blow by and things like that and keeps you from burning as much oil as you normally would without it. Very important. From here, you basically end up at a point where you can, if you have the money, do a front mount intercooler at the same time. That's going to get a little bit more horsepower, colder air into your turbo. It's going to be much better. You'll get higher numbers on the dyno. Then you can get a Cobb Flex Fuel kit where you have the fuel pressure monitor as well. So you get the Cobb Flex Fuel kit with the fuel pressure monitor. It's important to have a fuel pressure monitor when you're running ethanol. So you get that. That's pretty pricey. And then you go get it pro-tuned again. Now you're pushing on pump gas 91 about, with a front mount intercooler, about 320, 330, 340. On E, you're doing like 350, 360 hopefully. And anywhere else with 93 octane pump gas, you're probably going to be doing over 300 horsepower with those mods, which is pretty good. So then the E is just a major part because your engine runs so much colder, it can get more boost and run really good. After that, you can do a rotated turbo kit and you get custom headers and things like that, but it's up to you whether you want to go down that route. There's so many ways you can go, but the engine from factory can only handle about to 400 horsepower. So if you get a Cobb turbo, you can do about 375 horsepower on a stock block, and that turbo, it's pretty good on pump gas. On E, it's going to be a lot more obviously, but then you're going to run into motor issues. If you want over 400 horsepower, you're going to want to do rods, bearings, pistons, and if you have high miles, you do valve springs, and then you'll have a built motor, forged pistons, things like that. If you're wanting 500 to 600 horsepower, you're going to want to do what's called a closed deck block, which is basically in the heads of the motor, there's a lot of void area and they weld in or place in aluminum plating, and that reinforces the head so you don't get any funky wear and things like that when it's under a lot of boost pressure and heat. If you want over 600 horsepower, you're going to do what's called, you're going to sleeve the block, where basically they drill out the cylinders and they put iron sleeves in there and they press them in, and you can do like over 60 pounds of boost, which is insane. So that's like your 800 horsepower Subaru engines. They literally have pressed in iron sleeves in the cylinders to be able to handle that much. That's a lot for that small of an engine. And then in the midst of it, you have your rotated turbo, you're gonna have custom headers and things like that. So you can throw that. There's just tons of ways you can go, but this is the straight up power diagnosis. What do you need to do it safely? And while you're building the engine and all that, you're still amping up your injectors and things like that and fuel pump. And that's pretty much it. You got from, you know, your factory till you have a like 800 horsepower build. It's super important, but with these cars, you pretty much got to go from 0 to 100 to keep it reliable, and just make sure you don't run lean. That's the most important thing. Watch your knock learn levels on your Accessport. You know, when it gets hotter in the summer months, you might need a retune. When it's colder in the winter, you're going to put more boost. If you're running a summer tune on that, you might run lean and things like that. So be very careful about, you know, what you're doing in the order, and don't get excited just because it's a new car and you wanted to get more power. You're going to end up hurting these engines. This is the one car where you do not want to skip adding more fuel and avoiding being lean and knock and things like that. These engines are so much more sensitive than, you know, your typical 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Yeah, they're all sensitive, but these are just bound to break, and you can avoid it if you do this properly and talk to your tuner and be educated and things like that. So I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you learned something about your STi, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.